It's the CEO of Open-Xchange, Rafael Laguna.
Thanks, Spencer. Thanks. I'm not going to break much because I only have, thank you. See, I only have one slide. I'm not going to break much. I can only break this one slide and that's it. No video, no nothing, no flash. Actually, I had Prezi. You know Prezi, the nice presentation tool that's a little more funky than PowerPoints are. But I guess you all had enough of PowerPoints already, so no PowerPoints, no nothing. I just got to talk. You were all watching Assange yesterday? We were all here? Raise your hands. Who wasn't here? Okay, you missed something. It was pretty cool. I'm trying to map this on what it means to our business, because I guess that's what we're all interested in. What I like about what's going on since the summer of Snowden and what Assange has been doing is that it's actually a business driver for what we all are doing. So we can do something good in fixing this while making money, which is usually very motivating. And that's what I want to talk about. This is also actually what our claim means here. You may wonder why has our claim stay open? I mean, obviously, we're an open standards, open source company, so that has to do with open. But of course, the other thing is you as businesses want to stay open, and we as Open-Xchange want to help you do that. And how do we do that? Who of you knows nothing of Open-Xchange, has never heard the company? So that I know. One guy, okay. You come to our booth, I explain to you. I leave you alone then, so no general Open-Xchange pitch. You know that we've evolved quite a bit from sort of being the webmail email company that a lot of hosting companies are using into providing what we call a full customer engagement platform, which means whenever your end users, depending on where they are, how many layers of reselling you have between you and your end customers, doesn't matter. But the people eventually using the applications and the stuff that you sell, how can you make them stay on your premises longer? How can you get them on premises that you control? And how can you use that to recirculate and sell more? We've learned a couple of lessons that I believe are very important, and I want to share those with you tonight. Not tonight, right? It's day, is it? Okay, today, because they will be very important for your business. It really boils down to three things, and we call them the 3 R's. And you have to make sure that those 3 R's work for you, because otherwise your business won't work. The first R is customer retention, or managing churn, reducing churn. You spend a lot of money on onboarding new customers, right? How much money do you spend to really keep them? And how do you keep them? We've learned from many of our customers that as soon as a customer is actually using, an end user is actually using more than one service from you, they are much less likely to churn. One big cable company told us if they're using 3 services, they're not churning anymore. So say you sell domains and web hosting, you sell them a mail package and they use it, a secure mail package, how about that, with encryption? And storage, that's 3 services, they're not going to churn. And it's actually too hard to move. I mean, moving a domain is not so hard if you allow them to do that, right? But moving your domain, your mail service, and your storage, especially when your storage is full, when a few gigabytes or terabytes are actually being used, right? It's hard to move that, very cumbersome. So even if you may have a little problem here, or you may be a little more expensive there, if your customers are using 3 services, they're not going to churn. Some of the business cases of our partners are exclusively about churn reduction, and it pays the whole bill. So you see, sort of a new group of clients that Open-Xchange has been addressing in the past 3 years or so is big consumer platforms. Big telcos that have sort of the consumer email system out there, or cable companies that are selling very expensive cable packages. But the problem is, ISP services and television, how do you differentiate? Right? You're showing channels with different brands, and the ISP connection is all about speed and price and availability and robustness, right? So it's very hard to differentiate. So they say, okay, let's add a few services on top of that. Again, mail, storage, maybe voice and video communications, that kind of stuff. And if we make these people use, the anti-churn effect, or the R for retention, is going to kick in. Of course, this only works if it is your assets, the stuff that you control. If you sell something to your customers that's not your brand, and that doesn't differentiate you from the offerings that the other guys have, you won't have the retention effect. So let's say you want to introduce mail and you resell Google Apps. I mean, guess what? The customers using Google Apps will be looking at what? At Google. Right? So the whole retention aspect will work for Google, but not for you. Also, you don't differentiate because that same service is available from Google or other resellers. So you got to make sure that you have something, in combination with the other products that you have that's unique to you, both from a branding perspective, maybe also from a package perspective, maybe from a price perspective, maybe from a service perspective, maybe you're in a vertical, but you need to differentiate, and for that you need the tools. So that's R number 1. R number 2 is recirculation. Once you deploy lots of web applications, the good thing about web applications are, especially if they deal with the stuff that all of us do a lot all day, and again, like email, storage, office productivity, right? Word, Excel, that kind of stuff, we spend a lot of time inside these applications. Now what you do is rolling out an offering with these additional services on the web applications that you control. Now you control what your customers are seeing when they're using these tools. So now just think of how much time you spend in application stores. We heard Berger yesterday saying, these sort of app stores in the cloud, they don't really work. People buy toys or something, Berger said, right? And maybe not business applications necessarily. But guess what is the best storefront for applications and other stuff? It's the applications themselves. So if you onboard, whenever your customers, your end users are coming to any of your services, and if it's only to check the bill or to go into the control center type functionality that you are providing, then they should see all the additional services that are available to them. And some of them should be free and immediately usable, because this way you catch them on your assets and they stay on those assets. And now you can use these applications to sell other things. For some, it may be advertisement. You just sell advertisement views. That's probably the simplest form. A more elaborate form is placing intelligent upsells throughout the applications where they make sense and where they're not annoying. So for example, when you're in your cloud storage UI, you may want to show people how much it would be to buy more storage. Or you can say, oh, you want to be able to view and edit your documents right here. You want a web office, click here to buy it. Because the brains of your customers, of your end users, are sort of in the right spot when they're using this application. And again, same goes for mail or any application that you put out there. Whenever there is an interesting upsell that would enhance the application experience, you place it right there. And it's a great no-touch storefront. You're not annoying. I mean, we're all using Amazon, right? I don't think what Amazon does is annoying at all. Whenever I buy something, it tells me, oh, people that bought this also bought that. And actually, I do discover interesting stuff, so I'm pleased about this. And I'm always buying more than I should, right? And you want to do the same thing. Also what it does, and that's maybe something that's often underestimated, you're not only communicating to the admin, which you may do now, right? You have your control center out there or something like that, sort of the self-service facility, and that's only being used by one guy inside maybe the company that you're catering with your services, the admin, right? And he's probably put you on his spam filter already because you're sending him way too many emails. But now you're really talking to all the people using any of the applications that you're catering to them. So your storefront goes out to many-fold people compared to before. Now you may be saying, should I be selling to this end user? Maybe they are not even allowed to make a buying decision. I mean, the answer is, guess why Dropbox and Salesforce and these guys are so successful? Because they're doing exactly that, right? They put the buying decision out to everyone to make. CIOs sometimes don't like that, and you can take care a little more than a Dropbox does about that, because you can still notify the admin that something is going on. But why not have these guys try out new applications that are available from you, right? And if the admin then says no and he disallows that, he can go to the control center and switch it off. And you can be generous about rolling that back, not sending a bill or so. But you wouldn't believe what the difference it makes when you're communicating to all your end users compared to what you're doing now. And this is how storefronts do work. And we know that from our own experience and from the upsell and conversion numbers that we see. And that's the second R. That's recirculation. Retention was the first one. That will save you a lot of cost of sales, obviously. The second one creates the foundation for selling more. And then the third one, obviously, is revenue, or ARPU is maybe the right word. What you can now do, I mean, you spend a lot of money winning new customers. It's much cheaper to sell additional services to existing customers. And the barrier of buying is much lower because you do the billing already, you know them already. They can just, you see Apple or Amazon often bragging about the number of credit cards they have. Apple now has more than 500 million credit cards on file that are active. Why are they? Because it's a huge asset. Because the barrier for buying is so much lower. And I guess we all have that experience, right? We're buying way too much. And I'm sharing my iTunes account inside the family, so my family's buying way too much. Because there is no buying barrier. And that is a wonderful business. And if I look at my credit card bill, 90% of it now is made up of iTunes and Amazon. Why? Because the barrier is so low. Actually, there's a little tool, and you should use that, Google that you can see your Amazon buying history. Ever since you first bought something from Amazon, mine went back to 98. And you also see how many packages were shipped to you. And my package curve is like this, right? And that's what you want your sales statistics to look like, right? That's exponential. So they do something right here, right? They do something right. Apple, I don't look. I don't want to know. Please don't tell me. Now, pick up this idea. Just do it the same way. It is very simple, because you're running all the show already. You have a lot of customers already. And now you have to engage them. If you're a telco, I mean, guys, come on. It is not very clever to start a greenfield operation and put out an application store into nowhere. Your customers don't expect you to do that. And if they want to buy Office 365, they don't think of you. They think of Microsoft, right? So why don't you give something to all your customers that you already have? But give them a free stack of, the basic services that everybody needs anyway. Thus, and those services are under your brand, right? Retention, and they are your point of sale. Now you're talking to everyone. Look at the traffic on your app store if you have one already. I mean, how many visits you have? How long do people stay on those assets? And now look at how long people stay in a simple webmail client. It can be hours. And it's your brand, and inside of that application, you can sell like crazy. And now add additional applications, and it can be stuff that's derived from our software stack. You can do premium mail, storage products, office productivity. You'll see us launching security products and real-time messaging and all that. And also, you may have products, web products already, and there may be other web products out there. We're talking to a lot of companies that are here from the ecosystem that integrate nicely into what we do. And you can just add these applications to the stuff that you're offering, because now selling more to your existing customer base, if you got the first two R's right, has become so much simpler. And that's going to generate you exactly that, because now, once your customers start using 2 or 3 of your services, you sell them all the rest. They're not going to churn. And they don't even have to think if they can buy something from you, because you tell them. Now, to sort of get this all together, what is important on your end is that you think of all the customer engagement things you're already doing. Right? You make, at least your admin, you make them log in for them to be able to do something. Right? If you sell web apps already, you make each end user log in. But then usually you're only showing them this one app. It's not only inconvenient for the end user because he or she has to log in for each individual application, so that kind of sucks. I don't like doing that. And when you think of your Mac or Windows desktop, you're not doing that, right? You log in once to the desktop, but then the apps are usually logged in, right? They keep, even the browser now kind of manages that, which is not very secure, but anyway, they do that for convenience, right? So what you should do if you work with us is simply use our platform, the desktop, the web desktop that everybody gets when they come on, to also make all the other things that you already have, all the self-service, control center, things, be available inside that platform. And this way, if you use Parallels, for example, you have wonderful single sign-on managed, under one hood, so to speak. If you have your own control center system, you manage that. We just plug into that. But now we have a nice, new, responsive HTML5 UI that you simply enhance with the stuff that you already have. So it also gives you a great opportunity to go back to your old 15-year-old control panel, right, and sort of beam it into the 21st century. Right? It's probably time, right? Because they may be ugly. Most of the ones that I know are really ugly, really old, because you never had time to go back to it and fix it, right? Business was just coming in too quickly. But if you use that time, the onboarding onto this platform, onto the 3 Rs, that will also happen with all the self-service stuff that you already have. And now all this now goes into one funnel, right? And you have one central point that all your customer engagement goes through, right? And now you get the 3 Rs for everything that's being done inside sort of the application services that you provide. So 3 Rs important. It's your brand in the face of your customer. It's really important. Whenever you make a decision what kinds of apps you want to sell, make sure it's your brand. And you control it. You control the packaging. You are able to differentiate in the product. Extremely important. We provide you a whole set of stuff that does that. Many out here do too. And we're all playing nicely. We're creating an open ecosystem, an a la carte menu of applications that you can sell, that you control, that you can bundle the way you want, and can use either for a freemium business model if you like that. I like that because it gets your storefront out to everyone, 3 Rs, right? The more you're using it, the better. And you can be clever about how you upsell people, what they only get if they pay. Now, getting back to what Julian said yesterday, what does all that mean to the 3 Rs? What it means is that all the over-the-top services that are not providing you with the 3 Rs have another intrinsic problem when the business model is derived from the data of the customer. You know that free services really only work if there's some way of monetization, right? And the monetization of many of these over-the-top services is based on doing something with the data, either the metadata or the actual content. Right, so for example, there is services that provide you with free email, and they do ads, right, on your email. To do smart ads, they have to read your email. So encryption would be really hurting their business because they can't read your email anymore. So no more sensible ads. So their whole ad targeting would break down. Or there are services that are trying to derive statistical data from your email, how much you're buying where, all that kind of stuff. And others that we don't know of, because they're not really honest services. They don't tell you what they do with your data, but they're doing something. And the same holds for them, right? They can't allow encryption because that doesn't work anymore. Or look at the over-the-top storage services, the Dropboxes of this world. When their business model depends heavily on deduplication, right? And you also see what they do with quotas when you share something, right? The shared storage capacity is deducted from you as the recipient on the sharing side, which is a clever approach, right? Because you quickly run down the free quota and then you upsell. But the thing is, again, encryption makes deduping very hard, actually impossible. Because if you do private key encryption of the content, no file is going to be the same, unless you have 2 identical copies of the file. But that's not what deduping does. So encryption makes such a service expensive. And if the service is also to derive data from it that they use, right, it makes it, again, impossible to encrypt. So now, if you want to do what Julian clearly said, one thing, he said, what can we do, Julian, to fix this? And he said, encryption, right? That works very easily. So adding encryption to what you do for content encryption makes total sense. If you've not done so, making the connections between your server encrypted, allow only HTTPS to log into your mail service and all that, that's a must. You must do that. It adds cost. It does add cost. But at the same time, you also heard many people here say, remember Detlef when he said, if I had a button that said send securely, I only want to send like 3 emails a day securely, even all the rest is just fine, I don't care, right? But if I had this button, I'd be willing to pay. Right? And I believe, and I heard that a lot now from lay people, that they are willing to pay for that. And you guys are the ones that can provide that, because you're selling what I like calling an honest service, right? You make your customers pay for the service, right? But then the data remains their data. They control it. You want to make them stay, And you do that like a good hotel or restaurant or bar, right? You make it comfortable and nice that people feel well and that they get a good service for the 3 Rs, right? Because that's what you need. But you're honest, you make them pay. And because they pay, you don't need to fool around with the data. You don't need to do stupid things. You can be honest, you can be transparent. Now, if you do that kind of stuff with us, we're adding one more layer of trust. And again, you heard Julian say, security is really about trust. Who do you trust? And trust is made up of knowing somebody for a long time, never having been betrayed, having had a great relationship for a long time, and you have that with a lot of your customers, right? So you've been in that market for quite a while, and you have that level of trust. You're also local to your customer, people can call you and all that. That builds trust. Now, when you add services, how do you add trust to the services? By simply making them transparent. If you do it with Open-Xchange, we're an open source company, people can download the software that you use to build the service. So we're creating a huge amount of experience. You heard Julian say open source does improve security. It's not the final fix, but it does improve it. But not only that, also it shows that you're not locking in your customers. Because if they really don't like you anymore for whatever reason, if the trust goes away, they can go to another service provider that offers something similar, or they can even run the stuff themselves. They're probably never going to do that because it's way too hard. You know that running that stuff is hard, but at least there's always an option. So, building trust, building the 3 Rs, and using sort of this wave that's coming in, it has only started, is my big recommendation for you to enhance your business.